So let me ask you a rhetorical question. How often do you hear about some nigga not taking care of his kids and being a deadbeat father? Now, how often have you asked the question of whose decision it was to have the child and if the man had a say in the decision? Is it fair to assume he's a bad person if he doesn't want to be a part of that child's life? Also, let me ask if you ever thought to ask the man why he isn't in the child's life without any preconceived judgment about his character first. Men being shamed and told they're less of a man by being raped by the court system and the women that forced them to be a father happens all too often. And I'd argue it's what's contributing to single motherhood, the dating pool being scarce for young people willing to settle down and have a family, and women's growing dependence on the state and the state's dependence on their vote. Catering to women has become one of the main ways of bribery. And it's as if all the responsibility is put on the man, including accidents in the heat of the moment of sex, even when the homie's only protection is basically a condom, while the woman has multiple methods of preventing pregnancy. For a woman to get pregnant, she has to avoid taking birth control, allow a man inside them guts without a condom, and fail to take Plan B after the fact or get an abortion. Women basically have to try to get pregnant now, unless you're Hispanic, while men only have to have a condom break or go in raw and have a weak pull-out game. Which person do you think has more of a chance to have an accident? I'd say the man whose knees are buckling while that nigga's balls deep in some bomb. The reason I say this is not to alleviate men of any responsibility, but to point out that the prevailing idea that men are just busting in women and leading women to believe they want to be fathers to their children, all while the women are completely clueless of his true character and possibility to bail, is a overused cop-out. The only way for women to get pregnant and become single mothers isn't the father being a liar and unreliable. It's as if women aren't seen as capable of lying or having ulterior motives to steal that baby juice when they get the first chance. Women stick together when it's time to, boy, I tell you. I've actually had women admit to me they only dated the man to get his sperm so they could have more of a chance to have a tall, dark, and handsome child. They didn't care if the man stuck around or stayed in the kid's life as long as they had the child they wanted. This is the exact reason I want men to be able to legally, one more time, legally opt out of parenthood and not risk being put on child support or penalized legally for doing so. Women continue to make the choice for men of when we become fathers and force men to fund their choice to be a mother regardless of the man's unwillingness to be in any situation with that woman. Just imagine getting someone pregnant that you do not want to be with or associated with beyond the sex y'all have, and you have no power to change that or let the person's decisions affect only them instead of your life for the rest of the time you're on this earth. Because let's be honest, having a kid changes your entire life, and it's not an easy decision to make or job to have. One of the most important decisions a human being can make is taken away from men by women all the time, and men are just expected to suck it up and deal with. Women are incentivized in this system to do so with the approval of our government too. We have to give men the choice to say no and stop being coerced into parenthood by a gun with the spiteful woman's finger on the trigger. I think this, along with slowly phasing out the welfare state that subsidizes single motherhood and bad behaviors, would make the single motherhood rate drop exponentially and make people think twice about having children they can't take care of within their own resources. Women will no longer have the safety net of the man from his taxes he pays, or the government through law for her decision to get pregnant with a child she can't afford to take care of. This is not to say that all single mothers are bad, because there are some outliers who are widows or actually were led to believe they were in good hands only to be shitted on, but that's definitely not the case for the majority of single mothers. Majority of them knew their man was garbage and ignored the signs, or didn't care that he didn't want a child and got pregnant for their own selfish reasons. It shows statistically how much those mothers take from our society without giving anything in return except a subpar child who's more likely to become a feminine or overcompensating nuisance on society than a productive citizen that actually adds value.
It's this wonderful capitalist invention called Google. Google it.
I mean, because of that reason alone, men should be able to opt out of parenthood, the same as women can have an abortion without consulting anyone, including the father. Although I'm pro-choice, I still don't want to glorify or praise abortion as if it's something that we should see as anything less than a nuisance we have to deal with as a byproduct of a free society. But it is an available option I feel people should have the right to decide to do in a free society where freedom of the individual does trump society's feeling towards a person's decision that only affects them. I understand and accept there's an argument for the fetus's rights to freedom and life, and I'll be willing to dive deeper into that conversation with someone who believes that for a fair assessment of both sides of the argument. I mean, because to be honest, I don't fully understand the logic behind their arguments and how they differ from the arbitrary limits people on the opposing side set for the point at which human life begins and is subject to the rights of the country in which it's due to be born. I mean, most opposing arguments to me seems like they stem from religious beliefs and the need to confirm them in one way or another, in my opinion. And that's no better of a determining factor than the people that say life begins after pain receptors develop or when the brain develops, or whatever reason people use to feel better about the abortion. At any rate, since we actually do live in a country that allows abortion, which is basically the woman's right to opt out of parenthood next to adoption, I truly believe men should have that same right without being shunned or punished by society for making that decision. Of course, it would come with certain stipulations. I mean, for example, maybe if it could be proven that the man promised the woman he'd be the father and take on the responsibility, then he bailed before it's any chance for the woman to have an abortion, he'd be liable for child support or some type of providing for the child. I mean, but other than that, men should be able to say no to women who sperm jack them or lure them into having a child with lies and manipulation, only to try to trap them with the law to finance her lifestyle or be a part of the child's life he did not want. Once again, this decision changes a man's entire life, and we leave that decision almost entirely up to the woman's whim. How is that right? What reasoning merits men being forced into parenthood while women have a second chance at life without kids until she's ready? And I don't want to hear none of that, I didn't want my kid, but it's the best thing that happened to me, so that's a good reason. Bullshit, nigga. That's the equivalent of being in a wheelchair, paralyzed from the waist down, and being a bodybuilder. Yeah, you're making the best of your situation, but nigga, you're still crippled. Don't act like you prefer that situation over not having a child till you're more prepared and with someone you actually want to raise a family with. Men just lie to themselves all the time. What the fuck is going on, man? I hate to end the vid this way because I like to joke a lot, obviously, but this truth is necessary to understand how things will change. Because as long as we have a democracy, we need the woman's vote. We cannot get any law for men put in place by politicians in office that pander to women to continue having their cushy job while not giving two fucks about men who usually just shut up and take whatever the government throws at them. Wake the fuck up, man. Stop letting ass or your love for women blind you to the truth of how much relationships can weigh down on you, especially when you let the government get involved in your relationship and your woman run wild and have these dumbass beliefs because we don't want to tell them the truth, all so we can get the pussy and keep getting it. We cannot get women on our side by letting them run us over, even if that's what they say they want. Women only care about men that care about themselves first, because those men are usually the most successful and well-rounded. And no, that doesn't mean not caring about anybody else. That just means putting yourself first. Those men make women feel comfortable being submissive in a world that continuously tells her to work and be strong for herself. Women might say they want some bullshit, but really what they want is men who can do that shit for them while they raise the family. Women are more unhappy now than ever in recorded history for the first world, and men becoming cucks isn't making that shit change. When men step up and step out the pussy matrix, we value sex and women's companionship less and avoid building our whole life around attracting women. Men don't even realize how much of what they do is ultimately to try to attract women. The clothes you wear, the place you live or aspire to live, the job you put up with just to keep up whatever lifestyle she wants to have, and the feeling you have to protect women you don't even know, and etc. Value your own time and resources more to do what you want with your life. And depending on what type of life you lead, you may attract more women without even trying. So if your motivation is women, then stand up for yourself and stop being willing to throw men under the bus to make yourself look good in her eyes. Otherwise, women will use you as much as you allow them to. And we've been allowing way too much to go on for the sake of supporting women empowering themselves, even when we have to sacrifice our own capabilities and freedoms just to level the playing field and appease women's emotions. This is why I'm a fucking anarcho-capitalist. Your life, resources, and freedom aren't largely dependent on what the masses thinks is right, and it makes people reevaluate themselves since they are solely in control of their life and can't blame government or any coercive entity for their circumstances. Yo, this is Rev Outlier. I definitely appreciate you watching the video. Apologize for my voice. I'm up late doing this and I've been working a lot lately. But please comment below with your view or response to my questions and the vid, and share if you agree with my stance on the subject.